What it do, guys? Welcome back to another video. Now, before we get into the review itself, if you're wondering why things look different, there's two people now in front of the camera. We're kind of changing how we do things in the channel. We actually have a new podcast too. If you want to check it out, we actually talk about the new style that we want to achieve, the new focus of the brand that we have. But to make the long story short, we're excited. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun trying out this new style of
That
reviewing.
first podcast episode was dope.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It was so much fun. But without further ado, we're going to give it a shot with the iPad Air, M2 iPad Air, which I love the color. And I'm sure there's other things to say about this, right?
There's other things to love about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It comes with the new M2 chip, which David mentioned. Although it is the same chip as what we saw in the last generation iPad Pro. It's just missing one GPU core, but still very, very capable. With a starting price tag of $600 for 128 gigs of storage. And I mean, if you wanted to summarize it in a couple words, it's essentially a nerfed M2 iPad Pro, which for a lot of people, that's still going to be really appealing.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, let's give it a shot.
Let's do it. So if you were to take a look at the M1 iPad Air and then take a look at the M2 iPad Air, you're not going to be able to tell them apart. I mean, maybe if you have a different color, but outside of that, they look near identical. There are some very subtle hardware changes that if you're really paying attention, you can tell the two apart, but outside of that, they look the same, they're built the same, even for at least one of the models now, which David will touch on here in a few seconds, but for one of the models now, it's the same exact screen size, 10.9?
10.9.
10.9 versus 11 inches on the new one. That doesn't actually count. We're just going to say they're both 11 inches, but where you're going to see the hardware change is the orientation of the front-facing camera. So on the M1 iPad Air, it was in portrait mode. On the M2, it's now in landscape, which will make things like FaceTime calls or even taking selfies on this iPad a little bit more comfortable. And I will say there is no Pro Depth camera, so no Face ID. Touch ID is built into the power button on this iPad Air.
Yeah. At least they should have done at least Face ID on this one, especially since it's landscape, right?
Yeah. $600, man. You can throw Face ID into the iPad
It's
now.
on an iPhone, might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I do think that it's cool that they have it on landscape just because it now feels more like a computer. And we know that the iPad Pro or the iPad base model, the last iPad, had it on landscape. So now they're kind of making everything be unified.
Yeah.
But what's cool is that they do have a bigger version. They have a 13-inch iPad Air that they released as well. Mm-hmm. And I do like that just because of the fact that if you are the kind of person that needs that extra space, that extra real estate on the screen, the only option you had before was to spend $1,500 for an iPad Pro, and that's just insane.
That's a good point.
Unless you have the necessity to use those pro features, if all you care about is the space, then now there's an option that's half the price that allows you to do your work. It comes with an M2 chip, so it still feels like a computer, and that even gives you room for accessories, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
You can do a keyboard. You have to buy an Apple Pencil again just because it's not compatible.
That's ridiculous. So if
crazy.
you guys watched our M4 iPad Pro review, we mentioned in that one that it was too, well, at least that was our thought, that it was too thin to support the previous generation Apple Pencil.
And it would have been okay. I think that would have been a good excuse, right?
Yeah. This iPad has not, which you looked it up, this iPad has not changed dimensionally compared to the last one. The M1 iPad Air is compatible with the previous gen Apple Pencil, the one that attaches magnetically. This one's not. You either have to get, again, the lower end version of the Apple Pencil or splurge extra for the Apple Pencil Pro. So David's right. I mean, in the money that you're going to save, if you absolutely wanted to have a larger display iPad, but you don't want to spend on the Pro, the money you can save, you can put towards your very expensive accessories.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to get them.
And cool hopefully have some leftover.
Yeah. The cool part is that this iPad Air is at least compatible with the previous generation Magic keyboards. So
yeah, if you're upgrading and you have one,
you might be able to save there.
That's something.
But get ready to trash that Apple Pencil.
Yep. Now, there's good things about this iPad. I think the one thing that we know it was going to happen, and it didn't catch us off guard, is the fact that now it has a new chip, which is not new, but it's the last generation's MacBook and iPad Pro chip, the M2.
Yeah, new for the iPad Air.
Right. It's new for the iPad Air, which is a great chip. It's one of those things that we've seen them increase the power every year, so we're not going to be disappointed. This is a capable, super amazing chip that you're not going to throw anything that's going to make it stutter. It's not going to make it hiccup or anything like that. But I think that's where it ends, right? It's nothing too impressive. It's just expected at this point.
We both had the M2 iPad Pro, didn't we?
Yeah.
No, well, you still have yours.
I still have mine, but there was no reason for me to upgrade it.
Yeah, so David still has the M2 iPad Pro. I have no willpower, so I upgraded to the M4 iPad Pro. But I don't think there was ever a point in time where either of us looked at the M2 iPad Pro and we were like, this needs to be more powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's interesting too because the fact that they released the M4, that did catch us off guard. The fact that the M4 chip was released on an iPad and not a computer.
Yeah.
But when we thought about that, it could be that because of the M2 being on the iPad Air, they wanted to have a bigger gap between the iPad Air and the Pro so they can market it
Better selling point.
100%.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still it's one of those things that you're not gonna struggle. You're not gonna have issues with this chip. It's so amazing. A MacBook Air that's M2, I would be completely okay with something like that.
Yeah.
So if you do basic schoolwork, Word documentation, emails, Excel, PowerPoint, it's gonna be perfect.
I had the 13-inch M2 iPad Pro.
Yeah.
I was editing 4K video in the Final Cut app for iPad Pro.
Which
Just fine.
the problem with this one though is that even though it's able to do something like that, there's gonna be limitations.
Yeah, hardware limitations.
Right,
Actually.
right,
Yeah. So
yeah.
we touch on it in all of our iPad reviews that have Apple Silicon in them because Apple Silicon is so powerful. You throw it into such a cool compact form factor like the iPad Pro, or in this case the Air, and it's just like you use the software and you're just like, you know that there's so much untapped potential between the power of the chip and the type of software that it's running. But for this particular iPad Air, you also have other things that you're missing too. There's no ProMotion display, which I get. That's exclusive to the Pro, but you're really going to feel it on something powerful like this. Maybe I'm just spoiled, but I noticed the 60 hertz right away. I was like, wow.
It's nothing like, I would agree that 120 is probably the better way to go. But then there's also sacrifices like the LiDAR sensor, which...
And there's no... If you put 120 on this, there's no... That's no longer an exclusive feature for the Pro.
Right. They want to sell the Pro.
And it makes sense. Like, Apple hasn't even brought ProMotion to their non-Pro iPhones yet.
Right,
So it makes sense. But
Yeah.
another limitation, let's say you did want to buy the iPad Air because it has M2. It's cheaper. It's very, very capable. You want to buy it for, like, video editing purposes. The USB-C port on the iPad Air is exactly that. It's a USB-C port. It's not a Thunderbolt port like what you see on the Pros, so you're not going to get those faster data transfer speeds. So if you wanted to import something, let's say from like an external hard drive, it's going to take longer to import on this than it would a Pro.
Yeah, which you might have to just do cloud storage at that point, but it's one of those things that they tell you can do a lot, and you technically can.
Yeah.
But they're also the ones putting a limit of how you could do that.
Yeah, just mind you, it's going to be stuff that you're going to do natively on the iPad. You can multitask to your heart's content.
You
on
want
this
20
iPad.
Excel sheets? Go ahead.
Just
That's
fine.
Yeah.
It's all going to be here, though, versus trying to import and export,
Right.
like, physically.
Great chip, though.
Yeah, it is actually really, really good.
Yeah.
So really, that just brings us to the price of the M2 iPad Air. $600. It's honestly not bad, but mind you, it is for 128 gigs of storage, which I mean, is 128 feasible in 2024 for an average consumer?
Yeah, I guess, but even then, might as well just put a little bit more. Like it's a lot of different companies are doing 256 as default.
We've trolled in one of our, was it the M3 MacBook Pro review where we trolled on the prices? Remember, it's like at this point in time, just upgrade here, do this.
Up and up.
Yeah. So Apple is very, very smart at pricing their products and their storages to the point where you will get very quickly enticed into the higher options because they're not too far out of reach to the point where you feel like it's ridiculous to pay for the upgrade. Yeah. But they're right there to where it'll still cost you a little bit.
Yeah, you take one step at a time, and then before you know it, you're at the iPad Pro 13 inches spending $2,000 on it.
Right, which we're not going to tell you to get the M4 iPad Pro over something like an M2 iPad Air. But, and David's already found this, but other retailers, not Apple, because Apple historically will always kill the products that are in like direct competition with something like this in their own lineup. You could go to a retailer like Best Buy and probably find the M2 iPad Pro for a very comparable price, right?
Right. And it's one of those things that it also depends where you come from. If you don't have an iPad at all, sure, it's a great option, but it's ultimately what you're going to do with it. Because if you're looking for a Pro with Pro features and you need that refresh rate of 120 hertz, if you need the compatibility with Thunderbolt speeds on a USB-C port, if you want a LiDAR sensor for whatever you want to use it for, I don't know what application it has nowadays, but if you want to use the LiDAR sensor, you will be able to find a super close price for an M2 iPad Pro, which is the same thing as this one, but better.
Yeah.
in every single aspect.
Which for LiDAR, by the way, I'm sure there's still applications for like interior design, like testing.
Yeah, I guess so.
You got empty rooms and you want to test and see what like furniture looks like inside of it,
It's
stuff
cool.
like that. But
It's a cool feature.
seriously, at the time of recording this video, okay, David literally just did a quick search for the M2 iPad Pro. And he found one at Best Buy, same storage. You can buy it unlocked, so there's no like carrier activation or
Right.
like sometimes when you buy through Best Buy, they make you do like activate in storage
Right, or a
receive this
contract
special
or
price.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. This is just you buy it, you're out the door. And it was instead of $600, it was $700. And it was the M2 iPad Pro 11-inch, same storage, 128 gigs. For $100 more, you're going to get Thunderbolt as your USB-C port,
Yeah.
right? You're going to get
Super Retina.
Face ID, the Super Retina display, ProMotion. You're going to get the additional GPU core in that M2 chip.
Yeah.
LiDAR on the back.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. If you can find an M2 iPad Pro on sale, I
Right.
still think that's your better purchase because, like, what is that? That's almost like $300 or $400 off. $300, $200 off from the original launch of the iPad Pro.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you're
it's
still
a good
saving
deal.
some money to where you can get your accessories. If you have like the previous gen
Or-
Apple Pencil, it's going to work.
I was gonna say if you already have one, it's gonna be compatible. So if you
Yeah.
have the keyboard and pencil, you don't have to get a new one.
Yeah.
You're gonna be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think. Let us know if you want to get the iPad Air, if you want to see something being reviewed in the future, if there's something you don't like about the iPad Air, let us know. Drop it in the comments. We're excited about the new kind of content in the channel. We're super happy that we're finally able to do a lot more
Yeah.
with what we have. But let us know if you want to see something special, something unique. If you want us to try out something that we haven't done before, feel free to let us know.
Yeah, support's been great too, by the way. We're almost at 13,000 subscribers. So
Super
if you're
close.
new here, consider hitting the subscribe button down below. And like David said, let us know what you think in the comments. And we'll be back very soon. We'll see you guys soon.
Later.
Peace.
What do you do, guys? Welcome back to. Why you're laughing, bro?
I wasn't expecting what to do. Sorry.